Hi, morning everyone, welcome to episode 80 of the Knitting Expat Podcast. My name is Mina and I will be your host today. We made it to 80, that's absolutely insane. I'm still a bit sniffly, so apologies for that. I'm feeling much better this week than I did last week. If anyone tuned in last week, you'll know I was at the beginning of a pretty not nice, that's not even good grammar, a pretty bad sort of head cold, and it literally just got worse after that day. But feeling much better now, still a bit sniffly, still a bit bunged up, but generally feeling okay. So my name is Mina, I'll be your host. I live in Bahrain with my husband and our 2 cats, and I am now 19 weeks pregnant, so almost halfway. And this is episode 80. Today is Wednesday the 28th of September, and you can find me online as Mina86 on Ravelry. I've actually changed my Instagram. I am now Knitting Expat on Instagram, and you can find the group on Ravelry as the Knitting Expat Podcast, and you can also find show notes at knittingexpat.wordpress.com. I do need to change my Ravelry name. I'm planning on, I just don't know why I haven't done it yet, but I'm planning on just changing so I am Knitting Expat across the board. Instagram, Ravelry, YouTube, it'll be nice and easy that way for everyone to find me. And you can find my patterns for sale in my Ravelry shop. I have my latest shawl design that was released is up behind me there. That's the Mariam shawl, and I'm currently wearing my newest shawl design, which is in test knitting, that's the word, in test knitting, and this is the Seacrest shawl, which I showed off in more detail last week's episode. Right, I was just trying to check my notes. There was a few things I wanted to mention at the beginning here. First off, next up, thank you if you are a returning viewer. Thank you so much for coming back, and if you are new and checking me out for the first time, thank you so much for giving me a go. Really appreciate it. I don't know why, but I'm feeling a little bit out of practice today. I don't really understand. I haven't missed a week. But anyway, and and this week is also quite a special week because this Saturday is marks 5 years since Perry and I moved to the Middle East. And sorry, Hugo's down here. He's gonna come up and say hi. Hey, you gonna come up and say hi? Last week he abandoned us because I think he was still a bit sore from the whole me making him wear a hat the week prior to that. So this is Hugo. This is one of our 2 cats. He's adorable and he's squishy and he's so soft. And he doesn't like that. He's okay. So a couple of weeks ago on the podcast I made him wear a baby hat that I'd knit, and I don't think he was very impressed. Anyway, so I was saying that the 1st of October is special for us because it's 5 years since we moved to the Middle East. And I don't think either of us really knew what we were letting ourselves in for. I remember that first day we landed in Dubai, because we lived in Dubai before we moved to Bahrain, and walked out the airport. It was 7 a.m. It was mid-30s centigrade. It was ridiculously hot. It was like high 90s Fahrenheit, and we walked out at 7 a.m. to this heat and humidity, looked at each other and were just like, what have we done? Like, seriously, what have we done to ourselves? Neither of us had ever been to Dubai before. We didn't really know what we were letting ourselves in for. And I don't think we could have foreseen any of like the twists and turns that have come across our path, things that we've had to deal with, both good and bad, ups and downs. But it's all been an amazing experience, and definitely wouldn't have changed it. I think it's safe to say our initial 2 to 3 year plan is well out that window. I always joke and say people come to Dubai or the Middle East in general, most people have like a 2 to 3 year plan, and it almost never works out as a 2 to 3 year plan. People either really don't like it and leave before 2 years, or they really enjoy it and it really suits them and their personalities and they end up staying longer. So I think it's safe to say we fell into that latter category. But it'll be interesting to see where our next move takes us. We don't really know where we're going yet still. So it'll be interesting. And Hugo, please don't knock the camera over. I'd really appreciate it. Yeah? Okay. So yes, that's that. I also had a little birthday sale last weekend. I announced it on Instagram, so thank you to everyone who took part and use that coupon code. I hope you all enjoy your new patterns, and yeah, and sorry, I keep saying I don't know why. So with regards to coupon codes, there is now a coupons thread in the group. A fellow viewer and member of the group set that up, so thank you for that. And now if anyone wants to offer a coupon code for viewers of the podcast or anything, you can pop it on into that thread there. I'm going to add a post where I'm going to put the current active coupon codes in there as well, so they will all be in that thread now, so you can check that regularly if you want to see what coupons are active for the group at the moment. Then we will move on to finished objects, works in progress. I have some acquisitions that aren't necessarily knitting related, but some that are, to show you. Some knitting on giveaway news, Q&A. I have a question for you guys this week. It's been a while since I've had a question. And then a bit of a weekend review at the end. So starting with finished objects. So the first thing I finished, which is actually, I've got quite a few things to show you, but this is the only one that was a whip last week, was the baby Rose City rollers. So this is the Rose City Roller Littles pattern. Hey Hugo, what do you think? He's very interested in this. This is by Mara Catherine Briner, sorry. I've got this written down. Mara Catherine Briner, and the yarn is Nooch fibre in the 100% superwash merino base. Come on, why is this not focusing? There we go. Come on. There we go. And this is in the Speeding Automobile colourway. I knit a baby playdate cardigan out of this yarn, and I used the leftovers to make little Rose City rollers. They were supposed to be smaller. They were supposed to be sort of like 3 to 6 month size, but anyway, there was issues with the pattern, and it seems I wasn't the only one to have that problem, so it was good to know. The second finished object is a pair of Rocky pants, Rocky trousers. They're basically like little jogging bottoms with babies. It's so cute. It looks super adorable. It's a tin can knits pattern, and it is just stinking cute. It is so adorable. And this is the 0 to 6 month size. Sorry, Hugo's distracting me in the background. He's behind my sewing machine just playing with stuff, and he shouldn't be. And he's trying to eat some yarn. 1 second. Hugo! Shaking a water bottle at him generally gets him to stop whatever it is he's doing. So yeah, so this is, I knit the 0 to 6 month size. I did make a couple of changes. I think I knit an extra ½ an inch in this section, in the body in this section, and I knit the legs about 1 inch longer total. I did the cuffs longer mostly because I figured when she's first born, she's a bit smaller. Because it's 0 to 6 months, that's a relatively large range size-wise for a baby that grows so quickly. And like I said, both Perry and I are quite tall. I was a very long baby, so I'm hedging my bets that this baby is probably going to be quite big, or lengthwise anyway. And so I did the cuffs long so they can be folded up. So when she's first born and she's a little bit smaller, I can have the cuffs rolled up, and then as she grows, assuming she doesn't get too wide for the trousers, then the cuffs can be unrolled and they'll still be long enough for her. So hopefully they'll fit her for a while. The yarn that I used is Anzula Squishy, and this is leftover yarn after I did the Random Act of Colour Wrap test knit for Debbie and Amy of the Periscoping Sisters. I had so much yarn left over. I knit this whole thing. So I used Rust for the waistband, I used Pesto for the main body of the trousers because this was the one I had the most left over of, and I did Aqua for the cuffs at the bottom. I still have this much yarn left. This combined is almost 100 grams still left of this yarn. It's like the never-ending yarn. I think there's like 95, 96 grams left, so I'm thinking so I might make a cardigan to go with it. Or is that a little bit too matchy? Possibly, in which case, I don't know, I might make this something else for the baby. Haven't figured out what. I might hold it double and do like a stuffy or something. I don't know, haven't figured that out. But yeah, it's really soft. I think it's an MCN blend of yarn, so super soft for next to baby skin. Some people probably think I'm a little bit crazy using an MCN blend for a baby, but why not? It was leftovers, it wasn't going to go into anything else, so I figured I may as well use it. And you want super soft yarn next to baby skin. So those are the Rocky pants. Then finally, the last two finished objects I have for you. First up is the peanut vest, also by Tin Can Knits. I absolutely love this pattern. It was so much fun to knit, and I'm going to talk about this in a second, but you can definitely see where the Fair Isle section is. There's a bit of a dip in the pattern is sort of, it's a little bit tighter there than it is at the bottom and at the top. I think if I was to do this again, I would do a few things differently. So you have the smaller size needles for your ribbing, and then you go up to a 4mm for the body, and then I actually went up to 4.5mm for the Fair Isle section, and then back to 4mm for the rest of the body. I also think my gauge, my tension, was a little bit looser here than up here on the 4mm. I think I must have been quite relaxed when I was doing this section, and then when I came to do the Fair Isle, my tension was a bit tighter. My tension isn't too tight in the Fair Isle at all. Like, it still has plenty of stretch in it. I mean, it's not as stretchy as the rest of knitting, but Fair Isle never is. But it's, you know, it still has, you know, a fair amount of stretch to it. My floats aren't too tight or too loose. Like, they're pretty even at the back there. So I don't think there was any issues in my, you know, maybe they could have been a little bit looser, but overall I think the tension on the Fair Isle section was pretty good. But also I've seen a few project pages where this section of the Fair Isle, where you've got the 1x1 color changes and it's all stacked up in columns, that some people have said that this acts a bit like ribbing in Fair Isle, so that kind of sucks it in a bit more as well. As you can see on that section there, it's sort of sucked in a bit more. But for this one, the yarn I used for this is, got the labels here actually. So the silver, or the grey, is, just leave that there, is 5 Moons hand painted Diana DK in the Load of Flannel colourway, and this is a skein that I picked up at Fibre East, and it was in the sale bin, so I picked up 2 skeins of that. It is so soft. It is the softest. It's a silk merino blend, or merino 50/50 superwash merino silk blend. It is so soft, and I still have the majority. I mean, I still have another skein left. It was ridiculous how soft this yarn is, and it was such a pleasure to knit with. And then the contrast, the navy contrast in the body, is a Louisa Harding super soft superwash wool. I think it's just merino. Oh no, it's just 75 wool, 25 nylon. Okay, it is very soft, and this is also DK in color 120. It's just a navy. I just thought it went for very classic colors. We didn't know if we were having a boy or a girl at the time when I bought the yarn for this, and I just thought navy is just a very classic color for a boy or a girl, and I just thought it was so cute. It was so adorable. And then to go with that, I also knit a bumble hat, also by Tin Can Knits, and I did the biggest damn pom-pom ever for a little baby hat. I mean, seriously, how big is that? That pom-pom weighs almost as much as the hat. The hat took 25 grams of yarn, and the pom-pom took 20, or 21 grams actually. So same yarns, the 5 Moons and the Louisa Harding. And I did the 2-stripe repeat option, and I made a big old pom-pom to go on top. I haven't secured it down properly. I've just tied a bow with the ends on the inside, just to see what it was going to look like, and I wasn't sure if it was too big or whatever, so I think I'll just leave it like that for now until the baby comes. Sorry, I should have mentioned, this is in the size 6 to 12 months, and so this is sort of a larger sort of baby size, so I think it will fit at about the same time. Like I've mentioned before, we don't know where we're going, so I'm trying to avoid knitting too many woolly things for the baby for when she's first born, because she's born in February, and depending on where we go, February might be cold, might be not so cold, and in either case we're heading towards the summer, so there's not going to be that much of a need for hand knits when she's very small. But next Christmas, wherever we end up being, we're planning on being back in the UK to spend Christmas with family. So I'm knitting more of the warmer things in the size that will fit her when she's for Christmas next year. It's kind of my thinking at the moment on that one. And that's it. That's 4 finished objects, and they're all for the baby, so they get to go into her little pile of baby knits, which is getting very big very quickly. I'm just enjoying knitting all the baby things, and I am totally just gonna go with it. Let me just move these out of the way. Alright, let's move on to works in progress. I have quite a few works in progress to show you this week. This week's episode is going to be titled something along the lines of Monogamy is Dead, because seriously, up until last week, I've been very much a 1 or 2 things at a time only on the needles kind of person, just wanting to knit one thing, get it finished, move on to the next thing, get it finished. You know, I've been very much in that sort of mentality, not wanting to have too much on the needles. But last week, I don't know what happened. I just decided to cast on everything, and even though I cast on a bunch and cast off a lot, I still cast on more. So I have 5 works in progress to show you, and only 1 was a whip last week, so loads of new things. First up, let's start with the project I had last week, which is a pair of socks. And so this is just a plain pair of vanilla socks, and it's all tangled up there. I'll sort that out later. This might be easier to show you. And this is just a Regia, one of their design lines with I think it's Kristen Nichols. Yeah, Kristen Nicholas, there we go, Kristen Nicholas, in the colour 3311. I'm not entirely sure what the actual colour is. I think something like Spring Garden maybe. Yeah, I'm just knitting a plain pair of socks. I needed something for knitting at the cinema last week, or the week before, yeah, last week, and so just cast these on. And they're now ready for the heel. They're at the point where I need to pop the heel in, and then I think once I put the heel in, I'm not going to knit on them again until we go to the cinema again, because then I have something to knit on at the movies. Nice plain knitting. We'll see. It's been I was saying a couple of weeks ago that my sock knitting, my desire to knit socks consecutively and all the time at the moment has kind of waned a little bit after the summer, but I still enjoy having a pair of socks on the needles at all times. I'm just not in that mode where I want to knit all the socks all the time at this particular moment. I think that's kind of been taken over by all the baby knits, but that's fine. Then next up, I have a design project, and this is also a baby knit, but it's a baby blanket. And I kind of had this idea, and I'd seen this stitch pattern that I really liked, and I modified it a little bit to be a little bit less complicated, but it still looks beautiful, and I absolutely love it. I love how it's turning out. This is bright red. It looks a bit orange on screen, but it's bright red, and this is what it looks like. It's these sort of blocks. I just really like the effect of it. And the yarn that I am using for this is some John Arbon textiles in it's 100% merino, 300 meters per 100 gram hank, and that's all it says. That's literally all the information that is on the back of that label. There is a minimal information on this. I found this in the sale bin at the John Arbon stand in at Fibre East, so I picked up 2 skeins. That's all they had left, and I thought I'd make something for the baby out of it. Again, at the time we didn't know if we were having a boy or girl, and I wasn't entirely sure what to use this for, because it is, I'm going to assume it's not superwash because it doesn't say, and I don't think most of their yarns are superwash, as in I think most of their yarns aren't superwash, so I think it's safe to assume this isn't as well. But I thought a really sort of special baby blanket would be nice, and this isn't going to be a huge one. I kind of did the maths on the gauge and the amount of yarn I had, and I figure I'm probably going to get a small sort of pram size or like car seat size blanket, and because it is non-superwash, it's just going to be one of those like special occasion blankets. And what I really like about this pattern is how unisex it is. Even though it's a little bit lacy and it's got eyelets and stuff, it's not particularly girly design, so I feel like this would be pretty good for boys or girls because it's very geometric shapes, so it could go either way. in terms of which gender it's for. Again, I had this blanket planned and the idea for it before we found out it was a girl. Not that I think there's anything wrong with knitting a lacy blanket for a girl, and I probably will do one at some point, but the idea I had for this one was for a blanket that would be suitable for a girl or a boy without it being overtly lacy but still having some lace in it, if that makes sense. So I just thought that was quite fun, and I'll be writing that up at some point. It's quite a long repeat, but it's not complicated, and it's easy to break it down into smaller pattern repeat sections. Then, let me just take this off, it's getting a bit warm in here. Then, next up, what should we do next? Another design project. Again, this is one that I've had planned in my head, at least, since the beginning of this year. Actually, I've had this project in mind, this particular design in mind, since the beginning of the year, and then I wound up the yarn at the beginning of the summer. I took it to the UK with me with the intention of working on it whilst I was there, but with how I was feeling with the early stages of pregnancy and everything whilst over the summer, I didn't really get a chance to work on too many design projects or new design projects. The Seacrest shawl was one that I wanted to work on, and this one was the other that I took the yarn for but didn't actually get a chance to start either. So started it now, and I'm again really excited with how it's going. The yarn that I'm using was sent to me by the lovely Kelsey from Primrose Yarn Company. It's a tag. Don't know if that's focusing or not. Primrose Yarn Company, and it's on her pearl base, which is a merino silk blend, and this is in one of her shawl size skeins, so it's 150 gram skein. You get about 600 yards, and it's in the Orion's Belt colorway, which is beautiful sort of tonal purple, very rich, very vibrant, and I just absolutely love the tonality of it. And I'll give you a little peek at the design. I'm two repeats in. Again, it's another one that has quite a long pattern repeat, but you don't have to do that many repeats of it for the design. And I'll just give you a little peek at it. So there's a bit of a stockinette portion and lace in the middle there. I'm not going to show you too much more of that, just because I kind of like to wait until it's finished and show you the big reveal. And because it's a slightly more again, it's not a difficult lace, it really isn't, and it's got short pattern repeat. Well, I say short, it's like a 12 stitch pattern repeat, so it's quite simple to work with stitch markers. So it's not overly complicated, but I've written it and designed it in such a way that this pattern will be super simple for a beginner, and so you don't have to worry about like increases and stuff with your lace, which is handy if you're starting out. I know that sort of thing can be quite intimidating, so this kind of is meant to be a simpler introduction to lace knitting, I guess. I think that's kind of really what I like to do with a lot of my designs. I've come to realize is I like to take something, I like to make or design a finished object that will look really beautiful and really intricate and will look complicated, but it's actually, when you break it down, is incredibly simple to knit, or you know, it's very easy to understand. It's simplified a little bit more than to a point where it's, you know, it doesn't look overtly simple, but you know, so it still has that intricacy and that intricate look to it, but it's not intimidating to knit, if that makes sense. So I hope I communicated that correctly. Anyway, the next work in progress I have to show you is in this a beautiful giant New York print drawstring bag that was sent to me by a lovely viewer. I always seem to use this bag when I go traveling, actually. This, or more in the summer actually, I use this one, which is my Bag Spoils from Granny bag, which I forgot to mention, because all the other bags are my own, so I keep forgetting to talk about them. Absolutely love this bag, it's huge. And so this is, so either that one or this one always tends to come with me on trips to hold all my projects in when I'm traveling, for my suitcase and stuff. So in here I have my birthday cast on, which is a project that I started for my birthday, as the name would imply. And, okay, so I'm actually going to stop and start a new segment for this because I have a lot to talk about for this particular project. I'm making quite a few different modifications, and so I thought I would just I'll start a refresh a new section because anyway. Okay, so this, for those of you who don't follow me on Instagram, because if you do you'll have seen me post about this. This is the Blue Sand cardigan by La Maison Rilly. I do not know if I'm saying that right at all. Sorry, there we go. It's the Blue Sands cardigan. And it was gifted to me by a viewer of the podcast and a friend when we did a swap. And this is a back view of the pattern, of the cardigan. I realise I have to cover my yarn stash, otherwise the camera tries to focus on that. So that's the back of the cardigan there, and yeah, it was just a long sort of tunic length sort of coat cardigan, I guess, and it's designed to be knit out of a DK weight. I think it's a cotton blend as well, actually. The yarn that is used, it's a cotton, yeah, it's just cotton DK. So I decided I'm gonna knit it out of a sport weight wool yarn, because why not? I'd already picked out this yarn and had it set aside for that cardigan ages ago, and so this yarn, this is my swatch, is the Icelandic yarn Camp Gun, which I picked up on my last trip to Iceland, and this is their I guess it's the equivalent, it's the softest of the Icelandic yarns that you can get. It's like the Icelandic merino, essentially, I think. I might be wrong. But it's a very soft Icelandic yarn. It's not Icelandic merino, it's the undercoat, because the Icelandic sheep have like the double layers, I think. They've got 2 coats, and it's the undercoat that is the softer layer, and that is what this yarn is made out of. It is not the softest. It is not as soft as merino. It does have a slight scratch factor to it. It doesn't bother me. I've knit a cardigan out of this yarn already, and I wear it all the time, so I know it doesn't bother me. But actually, I think for a shawl it would bother me if it was up around my neck, but as a cardigan it's fine. It doesn't bother my arms or anything if I'm not wearing a long sleeve under it, so it's not a problem. But so with regards to the gauge, so let me check the notes in here about that. So the pattern is designed for a gauge of 21.5 stitches by 27.5 rows. My gauge, my blocked gauge, was 21 inches by 31 rows. So my stitch gauge was about right, a little bit off, but not drastically. But my row gauge was quite a bit off. And this particular pattern, most patterns, row gauge isn't such a big deal, because most patterns say, you know, knit this section until this many inches or centimeters or whatever. They tell you to knit to a certain measurement. This pattern, however, is written a lot with a lot of the sections are written with knit this many rows, or you knit this many rows before you separate for the sleeves. So your row gauge in those instances will matter, because if your row gauge is drastically different, then for example your yoke depth could end up being too short. So judging by the row gauge for the design, I figured out from the number of rows it was telling me to knit before separating for the sleeves that the yoke depth is supposed to be 8 inches. So when I got to the point where the pattern was like, okay, now move on to separating the sleeves, I measured my yoke, the depth of the yoke on the cardigan. I was nowhere near 8 inches. So had I separated for the sleeves at that point, it wouldn't fit me. So it would be, you know, right up in the armpit, and it wouldn't be comfortable to wear. So I, you know, based off of that and having done that calculation before I started, I knew that I was going to have to add rows to each of the stripes, because as you saw in the picture, the pattern is done in stripes. So what I figured was, if I add X number of rows to each stripe, that will sort of counter my row gauge difference, and in the end, if the cardigan ends up being longer, still not a big deal, because I like long things and I'm tall, so if it's slightly longer, then it doesn't bother me at all. So I knit this up out of some scraps of cam yarn that I had left over. I didn't want to dive into the yarn I had set aside for the project, because I wasn't sure how much I would need. I know I definitely have more than enough. It's just I Anyway, should be fine. So this is how far I am. You guys probably want to see it. So this is how far I am. I've knit the top section and I've knit the second colour, and I've separated for the sleeves. I separated for the sleeves last night. Just put them on some scrap yarn for now. And the sleeve construction for this one, this pattern actually comes with two options. There's a raglan option and there's a combination yoke is what they call it. It's kind of a variation on a contiguous sleeve. And so this is what the sleeve, let's see if I can show this to you clearly. This is what the sleeve section looks like. So this is the sort of top of the shoulder, and then this comes down and becomes this is the sleeve cap here. It's a really interesting construction, and there are actually some short rows in the sleeve section which gives a nice sort of curvature, which is the first time I've done that on a sort of top down construction like this. I've done it before on a top down where you pick up and it's like an inset sleeve, but this is like a this is different. This is almost like contiguous / raglan style. And I made a few modifications based off of the finished measurements of the garment and my gauge. I realized I'm knitting the medium size. I knit the medium size for the sort of shoulders, but as I got to the sleeve section, I was looking at the measurements. I was like, the sleeves are going to be super snug on my arms, which I don't really want. So I added stitches because I was going to have to add extra rows before splitting for the sleeves anyway. I had a couple of extra rows to play with to add increases for the sleeves, and I also added a couple of extra increases to the front of the body because, again, as you can see, it is an open front. It is not a buttoned cardigan. So I wanted that to just be a little bit more coverage on the front. And if you hadn't already figured it out, this is a cardigan and I have joined it in the round. I'm planning on steeking, so I'm really enjoying that at the moment, and it's not scary at all. I have a video for that on this channel as well if you want to have a look. And yeah, so I waited until after I split for the sleeve so I could try it on and make sure that it was all okay. It all seems to fit fine. I think with a bit of gentle blocking that it will fit a bit better. The thing is, this is a non-superwash yarn, so with the non-superwash yarns, they don't tend to grow that much when you block them. Superwash yarns tend to grow and get bigger, so for the most part what you have is what you get, as it were, with the finished object. My gauge did change slightly when I blocked it. I think I ended up pre-blocking, I had 24.5 stitches per inch, and after blocking I had 21 stitches per inch, so I know this will get a little bit bigger as I block it, but not so big that it will bother me. So what I've done is like I said, I increased stitches on the sleeves to match the medium size. I also, sorry, the large size, but I kept the rest of the pattern for the medium size, and like I said, I added a couple of extra stitches to the front as well. But other than that, and then just following the pattern the rest of the way down and onto the third colour. So what I've decided to do colour wise, because I've got 5 colours for this. So the red is done now, and I actually don't think I'm going to be needing the red again because it's done the top of the sleeves, and so I have 1 ball of red left over. I have 2 balls each of these colours, so I think I'll have enough of each colour to just need 1 ball of each for the body, and then I'll have the second balls of each to use for the sleeves, so it should be plenty. And then what I'm doing, so I started at the top, I had the grey there, then I had the red, and then I had the chartreuse, and then I've got the blue, green and purple. I can't remember the order I picked for that, I've got it written down somewhere. And then again, this bottom textured section I'm going to do in the grey, and the button band I'll do in the grey, and the ribbing on the cuffs I'll do in the grey as well, and that kind of will just tie the whole thing together. I think that'll look quite nice. And there's also a textured section at the top of the sleeves here. I don't know how well you can see that in that picture, but I'm not sure I'm going to do that. I kind of feel like that will make that section of my arm look bigger than it already is, and it's already, you know, it's already quite big. I don't really want to have to show, I don't want to show that off anymore. So yeah, I think that's kind of my thinking and what I'm doing with this, and then obviously I will be steeking. And yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. Like I said, I cast this on my birthday. I've only been knitting on it for a few days, but yeah, I also envisage having quite a lot of yarn left over. I have over 2,000 meters of this Camgarn yarn, and the pattern says for my size I'm only going to need about 1,500 meters, I think. Actually, it's a little bit less than that, but I think I estimated, even if with all my modifications and having to do extra rows and whatevers, and say I had to make it longer or whatever, I'm still going to have plenty of yarn left over. So we'll see. So yeah, so that's living in this giant bag. And my final last work in progress is one that I cast on quickly yesterday as we were leaving for we popped out for lunch, and then we were gonna go straight to our antenatal class, and I didn't have anything to work on that was just simple plain knitting, which, you know, didn't need a lot of focus. So I cast on some super simple little itty bitty baby booties. So these are Baby Uggs by Autumn Street. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. Relatively simple to follow. Some of the instructions aren't the clearest, but I think if you have, I've never knit anything with this type of construction before, so it will be interesting. I am at the point now, this is all I've done so far, can't really see that very well, but I've knit the top band section, which will then fold down and be the top of the boots, and I'm just at the point where I need to start working on the instep section. So I just knit this for a little bit yesterday, like I said, whilst we were out for lunch, and I didn't want to take a big project with me. And this is being knit out of that Louisa Harding DK in the navy that I also used for the peanut vest. And this is on 3.75mm needles, this one. So yeah, that's everything that I am working on at the moment. I think I forgot to mention the cardigan that I'm knitting is on 4mm needles, the shawl that I'm designing is on 4mm needles, and the baby blanket is on 4.5mm needles. And the good thing with the baby blanket is as well, even though I'm designing it in a sport weight, you can pretty much knit it in whatever size you want. The instructions will be written in such a way that you can pretty much pick your yarn weight, pick your needles, and just based on your gauge you can decide how many pattern repeats you want to do. And I'll sort of write it up in that way, so it's super adaptable. Yeah, so that's that. Right, let's move on to acquisitions. I have quite a few things, both that Perry got me for my birthday, and that on the day of my birthday we went out and sort of went to a few different places to see what they had, and I picked up a few things. So there were a few things I wanted to show you. So actually what I might do is I might stop here, grab the stuff out of the bag, and so I can show them to you without too much noise. Give me 1 second. Okay. So just before my birthday, if you've been watching the podcast more recently, you'll know Perry was in the US, and whilst he was there he picked up a couple of things for me. One thing he picked up was this really adorable pug pillow, because we're both kind of obsessed with pugs, and we'd really love to get a pug, but just currently with our lifestyle it wouldn't be fair on the dog it wouldn't be fair for us to have any dog, let alone a pug. And just in this climate, in this place, it's not really fair. So he got me a pug pillow instead to tide me over until we can finally be somewhere where we can have a pug. I think the idea is once we're a bit more settled down and not likely to be moving around as much, then we'll probably be in a better position to get a dog. But what I found really funny is there's this tag that comes on the pillow. It's just a pillow, it's nothing particularly dangerous or anything. But the tag says, under penalty of law, this tag is not to be removed except by the consumer. It seems a little extreme for a tag. I mean, I don't know what could go possibly wrong if this tag is removed. But anyway, I just thought that was a little bit extreme, but also kind of funny. The other thing he got me, or one of the other things he got me, was this super adorable baby book. It's actually for both of us, I guess, to fill in for the baby. And I really love the drawings, and the aesthetic is really sort of gender neutral, but also really delicate and really, it's just really nice. I just really like, and there's certain bits that have like little pop-up pages which are really cute. So yeah, really looking forward to filling that in. And it's got lots of little pockets and stuff for you to put things in, little keepsakes and photos and things. So yeah, it's actually the nicest. I've seen quite a few different baby books when we've been out and about and looking at stuff. So he did really well, because this is the nicest one I've seen. So I'm really glad he got that one. He also got me these. This is a bit of like a novelty gift. because it's basically Hugo and Derek. And these little tongue ties, they're like they're to put your cords through, like earphones or like chargers and stuff when you're traveling, so they don't get like tangled up in your handbag, which I thought those are so cute. They basically look like Hugo and Derek, except Derek's missing the little tooth. And he also got me a bag of M&Ms because I'm kind of obsessed with crispy M&Ms, if you weren't aware. He got me a couple of other things as well, but that's all I'm going to show you for now. We also popped to the post office on my birthday, not really expecting much. I had a package to send out, which I did, but then there was this package that had arrived for us, and I was a bit confused because it was marshmallows, and I was just like, who's sending us marshmallows? It's by a company called Boomph. I'm not sure if you can see that on the screen there, but it turns out my mum had sent us a package of marshmallows with pictures of us on it, and this is just the photo card that comes with them in the box. So it's just a variety of baby photos and photos from the last few years from me and Perry. Yeah, so I just thought that was quite fun and quite cute, and we've been slowly working our way through the box, eating a few of them, still got a few left to go. But that was quite fun and unexpected. And there's also a couple of craft shops along the highway near where we live. There's one at the very end of the highway which I've been to before. They do sell yarn. It's mostly sort of things like king coal, and it's almost always all acrylic. There is some cotton and cotton blends, but it's mostly acrylic stuff, and it's all expensive as well because it's imported. But I do have other craft supplies. I wanted to check their price on quilt batting, just so for future reference, and just see what else they had. And I was surprised actually, because I didn't expect them to have this, but they had safety eyes. So I picked up some safety googly eyes for toy knitting for the baby, because I have a couple of toys that I want to knit for the baby, and so yeah, I wanted safety eyes for those. Sorry, words failing. And we popped to this other one which is also along the highway, and it's what over here the address system is a little bit different than anywhere else in the world. In general, in the Middle East, it's like this. You don't give an address based on street name or street address. It doesn't work that way. No, you give addresses based on landmarks and other buildings and other stores. So there's this one craft shop along Budaya Highway, which is the highway near us, and it's called Celebrations. Now someone told me that Celebrations, it's next to Fish World on Budaya Highway. That was the address I was given. It is next to Fish World on Budaya Highway. That was literally the only information I'd gotten. And I knew where Fish World was because it's got this massive sign on the thing that you can see very clearly from the road. That's Fish World. Which is basically just a fishmonger's. But it took me 5 times driving past that section of road on different occasions, not just me going back and forth like a crazy person. It took like 5 or 6 times driving past that section of road before I actually saw where the Celebration shop was. It's like 2 or 3 shops down, but the signage is so small that from the road, if you're driving past it, it's very hard to notice. Anyway, I'd never actually been in, so Perry and I stopped by and had a little look around. They also had some yarn. They import a lot of yarn from the US, like Lion Brand and Red Heart and stuff like that, but they also had a lot of quilting supplies, fabrics, and other sort of craft supplies as well. So we went and had a little look around. I found these really adorable rainbow buttons, so I'm gonna have to knit a cardigan for the baby to make use of these rainbow colored buttons. Oh, come on. There we go. And I picked up my first ever like proper jelly roll. This is a jelly roll by Moda, and I'm pretty sure I paid way more than I would have in the US for it, but it wasn't too badly priced, I don't think, for what it was. And it's the Bungle Jungle line by Moda. So this is going to be a really fun little baby quilt. I think I'm probably going to do one of the Quilt As You Go quilts from the Quilt As You Go Made Modern book. There's that one, I think it's called Solstice Parade. I've seen Sarah of the Love Suck Wool podcast, she's done that one a lot, and I really like the way that looks, and you just need jelly rolls for that one. So I think that's I think that might be the one that I go for, and I think it'll be a really fun, bright, sort of kiddie appropriate quilt. And I always like the idea of like cute little jungle animals and like just animal prints and animal things in general for babies. I think that's just really adorable. So those are those things. And then the final place we went to, we stopped by the Fabric Weavers which is also on Badiah Highway, it's just the other end of it. So there's all these like little things along this one highway. So pretty well located in terms of craft supplies around here, in terms of what is available. And for those of you who don't know, I found this Fabric Weavers, again a fellow knitting friend that I knew from the knit group in Dubai. She actually lived in Kuwait. She's back in the US now, but she told me about this place in Bahrain that she'd found when she'd been over, and it was a local Bahraini family, I guess, who had this. They weave fabrics. And then they sell the hand woven fabrics that they make. And I visited a while ago and I did take some footage, so what I might actually do is I might pop that footage in here for you guys to have a look. So we went by there again, and Perry had never been, and even he was a little bit surprised by how like sort of tiny and like shack-like the place looked. But it's just like this little shed type thing almost. But I went in, I asked them what fabrics they had, and they brought out 2 or 3 baskets full of different pieces of fabric. So we picked out a few pieces. Picked out this sort of really sort of it's showing up a bit blue, but it's a really deep sort of royal purple colour. It's royal purple sort of verging on that sort of blue range, which is really sort of bright and vibrant. There's this beautiful green, which I also really liked. I actually think they look quite nice together. And then I saw this on, I fell in love with this print, this colour combination. So you've got green, blue and orange. And then they also had a matching orange solid one, and they also had the blue, which is the same blue as in there. So I got the 3 to go together, and I'm not entirely sure what these are going to be. I might end up doing like a matching set of pillows or something, depending. I don't know. I'm not planning on doing anything with these before we move. I just wanted to make sure I had some of these fabrics before we moved, so I wouldn't regret not having anything with me after we'd left to do something with. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them. I might make like I said, matching pillows or something for wherever we've moved to. I don't know. I just feel like we don't have a lot of soft decor furnishing, I guess, in our house. We have some pillows on our sofas, but they're quite old and a bit worn down now, and it would be nice to have some, and pillows aren't really difficult to make, so it'd be nice to have some homemade ones wherever we end up moving to. And it's pretty versatile what you can do with these. I mean, they do fray like crazy when you cut them, so you need to be careful, but yeah, there's still quite a lot you could do with these fabrics. So I just thought it's nice to have some of that in my fabric stash. And yeah, that pretty much covers it in terms of things that I bought or received physically. I also want to say a massive thank you to everyone who sent me a pattern for my birthday. That was really, really sweet of you. There were some really, really cute ones. Someone sent me the Bonbon Bunny, which I'm really excited to cast on soon. I think I'm probably going to use the handspun that Jeanette sent me, the rainbow handspun, for that, because I just think that's really appropriate for a stuffy, and especially for like a bunny like that. So yeah, so let's move on to knit along news. So first up, we have the sweater knit along, which is running until the end of this month. So on the 30th of September, I am going to close that thread. And I showed you the price for that last week, so if you're interested to see that, you can check out last week's episode. And then the Beyond Vanilla Socks knit along is running until the 3rd of October. so again that will be closed. Both of those giveaways will be the prizes will probably be announced next week. And then I also have my 30th birthday giveaway, which I was hosting, and that's also running until the 3rd of October. So actually I think next week's episode, because I'm going to have a lot of prizes to announce, I'm going to have 6 winners to announce. So what I will probably do, more than that actually, because the birthday one has some pattern prizes as well. So what I'm probably going to do is I'll do what I did last time, is I'll film a separate segment for the prize winners. That way that'll be a separate video that goes up, and if you've entered any of those knit alongs or giveaways, then you just check that small video to see if you've won. And actually I find I did that last time with this last set of prizes that I had to announce, and I found that worked really well. Everyone who had won had gotten in touch with me within less than a week of that video having gone live. So I feel like you guys find out quicker that way, because it's a shorter video. You don't have to necessarily watch the full podcast to find out, and you know that the prizes have been announced then, so that's when that video goes up, versus not knowing which episode of the podcast the prize is going to be announced in and stuff like that. So it just means you're less likely to miss it. So I think that's probably what I'm going to do from now on when I have like a bunch of prizes to announce like that. And then we've got 2 new knit alongs that I've started in the group this last week, since Saturday, since my birthday. And the first up is the Riot of Colour knit along, and that is something I've been wanting to do for a while now, and I just really wanted to get on with it. Basically anything bright and colourful, multicolored, rainbow-esque counts. All the rules and everything for that are in the chatter and FA thread, which are both in my group. And I just wanted to quickly show you the prizes for that one. So I have a few prizes again that I have been accumulating and putting aside for a while for you all. Some have come to me more recently, some I've been hoarding for a while for this particular giveaway. So first up is a rainbow unicorn project bag, which is the same as the one that I have that I use all the time. I only had enough of this fabric to make a couple of bags, so I kept the second one for a giveaway. And this will go with 2 skeins of Knit Picks Felici in the rainbow colourway. That'll be one prize. Then the second prize will be a skein of yarn from Stranded Dye Works, and this is on her street art base on the Oasis base on the street art colourway, 425 meters in 100 grams, which is really sort of bright, again very fitting with the whole theme of a riot of colour. I don't think you could describe this as anything else other than a riot of colour. Then next up we have this skein of Friday Studios. This is one of their ice dyed yarns. So it's just icicle number 27 on the Monday base, 75-25 superwash wool and polyamide. So again, sort of bright rainbow colours would make a really good sort of sturdy pair of socks. And then finally we have this Colours of the Underground by Whimsy Knits. It's on 100% superwash merino, 380 meters in 115 grams. And again, a really sort of colourful skein of sock yarn, which would work well in a sock, or actually I think this would look quite nice in one of those asymmetrical garter stitch shawls, like a hitchhiker or something. So those are the 4 prizes for that knit along. And yeah, there might be more, there might be less, depending on how many, not less, there might be more depending on how many entries we have. There won't be less than that. Those are the minimum number of prizes. And I will let you know if there's anything extra that gets added to that. Then for the next knit along is a baby knits knit along that I'm going to be co-hosting with the Spicy Homemaker, the lovely Melissa. And we are calling this knit along the Wee Knits, the Wee Little Knits Along, or the Wee Little Cal is the hashtag on Instagram. Oh, and for the Riot of Colour, knit along, the hashtag is hashtag Riot of Colour or Riot of Colour 16. I can't remember. It's in the threads. But for the baby Cal, it is Wee Little KAL is the hashtag, or we're also calling it the Wee Little Knits Along. You can also crochet. You can also crochet for either. I just because I don't necessarily crochet, I just tend to call it a knit along in my head, but you can by all means crochet as well. We have a few prizes for this one. Like I said, I'm co-hosting with the lovely Melissa, the Spicy Homemaker, and she's actually hosting the chatter thread in her group, and I'm hosting the finished objects thread in my group. And I have a link to the chatter thread in the FO thread as well, so if you're having trouble finding it, it should be nice and easy. So we have already been donated a pattern by a lovely viewer. She's donating a baby pattern up to $6 as a prize, so thank you so much. I don't know if she wants her name mentioned, so I'm not really saying any, I'm not going to say it. But then we also have had another prize pattern donated by another lovely viewer and designer called Josh Moll, and she's donated her Magnolia tunic, which is a beautiful little Fair Isle there are elements of Fair Isle in this little tunic designed for little girls from 1 year and up, and it is, I'm not sure if I can get that, you can see that properly, there we go. It is beautiful and it is stunning, and I really like the colours in the original design that she's got. But there are other versions of it, and I think someone's knit it as like an adult version as well on there, and it's just really beautiful. And she sent me a copy of the pattern, and she's donated a copy for the knit along. Then in terms of other physical prizes, we have the lovely Darlene, Bags by Awesome Granny. When she sent me a couple of project bags to try out and review, she also offered a project bag for a future giveaway. So I'm going to use that giveaway prize for one of you guys for this knit along, for the baby knit along, the wee little Cal. So that's one prize that she will be sending directly to the winner. So once that's announced, then that will be the prize. And then I also have 3 skeins of yarn that I have picked out to use for giveaway. One is this skein of 5 Moons on the Lunar Twist 4-ply in the Cruise collection. It's a one-of-a-kind 100% superwash merino yarn, which I also picked up at Fibre East. I just thought it was a really fun sort of collection of colours, of blues and greens. It's really, really nice and very, very soft and squishy. There is this lovely skein of the Wool Kitchen. The label got a little bit ripped, but there's nothing wrong with the yarn at all. It's in the Urban Hints range, I guess, collection. Urban Hints in the Happy Hour colorway. So it goes, depending on which end you pull from, it goes from pink to orange or from orange to pink. And I believe she designs these, the dyer behind this yarn, she designs these skeins so that, you know, they can be used in like specific types of shawls. And there's 370 meters in 100 grams. It's 50% merino, 50% tussar silk, so a really lovely blend. And then finally you have this skein of Fibre Spates Scrumptious 4-ply Sport in this lovely sort of soft minty green colour. And this is 45% silk, 55% merino in the Flying Saucer colourway, 365 meters in 100 grams. So it's a very generous skein of sport weight. 365 meters in 100 grams is actually some fingering weight. So I guess depending on what gauge you choose to knit this at, it could be a fingering or a sport weight. But yeah, really, really soft. I think this would make a lovely baby knit or any other sort of knit for yourself or for a gift or for anything. But yeah. So these are the 3 physical prizes that I have to give away, along with a project bag and 2 pattern prizes for now. So yeah, that's quite a lot to go through there. So I hope, sorry if this was boring for anybody, but we're done now with the knit along and giveaway news. And I'm going to take a quick break and come back to you with questions and answers. So back now with the Q&A section. I have a couple of questions in the questions and suggestions thread in the group, so if you do have any questions for me, whether they're knitting related or not, feel free to pop them into that thread there. The first one is from Amy and Suggy on Ravelry, and she asks, I just knit my first pair of vanilla socks. I use US 1.5 needles with 64 stitch count. They fit but are a little loose. Would you suggest changing my stitch count or my needle size? If stitch count, what would you recommend? Also, I just watched your last podcast and you said you're going to put some bags in your shop. Will this be the last time for a while? I asked because I might miss the update. Okay, so answering the first question about the socks. So 1.5 needles is about 2.5 millimeter in millimeter sizes, US 1.5. So my first suggestion would be measure your gauge on those socks. Are they a bit loose for socks? I mean, I think the average gauge for socks is about 8 to 9 stitches per inch for a good sort of tight gauge. And so if you see that your gauge is more like 7 stitches per inch, then you might want to go down in needle size to a 2.25 millimeter or a US 1. So that would be my first suggestion, is check your gauge. But if you're finding that your gauge is still is at the 8 to 9 stitches per inch, and you like the fabric that you're getting and it's the nice sort of density, nice and thick, and it's not too gappy, then you might want to go down in stitch count. So you could go down to 60 or 56 stitches. What you could do is, based on your gauge, so say your gauge is, let me just grab a calculator so I can do this quickly. So say the gauge you're getting on 1.5 is 8 stitches per inch, and you've done 64 stitches. So you do 64 stitches divided by 8, and that gives you 8. So that means your circumference of your sock is 8 inches. You can measure the circumference of your foot, and if your foot is 8 inches in circumference or less, then that sock's going to be baggy for you, because you've knit an 8-inch sock, and so your foot is 7.5 inches around, then you've got half an inch of positive ease. Generally speaking, you want about 1 to 2 inches of negative ease in your socks for a nice sort of snug fit. So say your the circumference around your foot is 8 inches, let's go with that for example, and you want a finished sock that's 7.5 inches rather than 8 inches, so you've got half an inch of negative ease. So that's all you want. So you do 7.5 multiplied by your gauge, in which case at this point we're saying is 8, and you get 60. So 60 would be your stitch count to get a 7.5 inch circumference sock. Okay, so but if you wanted a 7-inch circumference sock, so you do 7 times 8, that gives you 56. So that will give you a 1 inch negative ease if your foot is 8 inches. So it's just a bit of simple maths. I hope that wasn't too fast. So measure your gauge, and then you can divide your stitch count by your gauge number to see by your gauge per inch, and that will tell you how many inches is the circumference of the sock that you have currently knit. Then measure your foot, measure the circumference of your foot at the widest point to see what that measures, and then you will be able to tell, you know, whether or not you have any ease or negative ease or positive ease in the socks that you've already knit, and then from there you can make adjustments to your stitch count. My first suggestion would be go down in needle size. Generally I find 2.25 gives a pretty good fabric, so give that a go as well. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question. If you have anything else, like a follow-up question to that, or need any help with figuring out the maths behind it, then do let me know. I'll be happy to help you out. Then the next question is from Paulie81. And the question there is, do you ever use a twisted rib for sock cuffs? Is it stretchy enough? I always knit a 2x2 rib. Yes, I have used a twisted rib for socks before. I don't generally use a twisted rib in socks anymore because the motion of doing it aggravates my wrists a little bit, and I'd rather not aggravate my wrists. So I tend to avoid it for socks at the moment. I do it every now and again for a special sock, but my go-to is also a 2x2 rib. It is the fastest, and it looks nice as well. I also like a 2x1 rib. I think that also looks quite nice as well. But it's perfectly stretchy. Twisted rib works perfectly well for sock cuffs, and loads of people use it. A couple of other people had commented in the thread saying that that also works for them as well. Also, so I hope that answers your question. A twisted rib cuff, perfectly fine. And then next up, I wanted to add, a couple of weeks ago we had a question about avoiding the dog ears on the corners of when you're doing a Kitchener stitch on your toes. And my friend Josie actually popped into the thread and wrote out a really good sort of step-by-step on how to do that, and her suggestion on the way to do it. And that's post number 347, if you want to go and check that out. And actually I've tried it and it works pretty well. So if you are curious about how to do a Kitchener stitch for the toe of a sock without ending up with those little dog ears at the end, check out Josie's step-by-step instructions in there. It's on page 14 and it's post number 347 in that thread. And then the final question that I have to answer, there were a few other questions that have been on the thread since then that I've just answered directly. But the next question I have still to answer, I think, is from Tammy O'Shea. Sorry, Tame O'Shea on Ravelry. And her question is, are you and Perry still planning to travel a bunch once your little girl is here? I know you love to travel, and I was just curious what your plans are, if any, about it. If I know you are moving soon, but I just mean traveling in general. Love your podcast and congratulations on your baby girl. Thank you. So it's quite funny because Perry and I have been talking about this, and I've spoken to a few other people about this since finding out that we're pregnant. And it's one of those things that, I don't know, I find a lot of people turn back because, you know, when they find out that you're pregnant, generally the reaction is positive. Sometimes you get the reaction of people being like, oh, you know, your life's never going to be the same again, or everything's going to change. I'm just like, okay, well, I think I'd be a little bit naive if I didn't think everything was going to change or that things were going to be different after the baby arrives. But, you know, we went into this knowing, you know, that our lives are going to change, that things are going to be different, and things aren't going to be the way they used to be, and that's kind of the point. But having said that, I don't really see us stopping the traveling side of things. Perry and I have always been big travelers. It's always been something that we've both loved to do, even before we were together. Traveling's always been a very big part of my life, part of his life, part of our lives together. And I don't think we're going to stop traveling when we have our little girl. I think what might happen is we may not travel as much initially, like at the very beginning, obviously, just after she's born. But I don't think it's going to stop us from traveling, having a child. I think the way we travel might change. I feel that, you know, things are going to have to be a little bit more relaxed in terms of like scheduling. I'm very much a person that likes to plan trips and like know what we're doing each day. I very much have come to terms with the fact that that's not necessarily going to be possible with a small child, and you're going to have to be a little bit more flexible with your plans and sort of go with the flow a lot more. That is also totally fine. I think traveling with children is just different. It's not impossible. It is not, you know, it doesn't have to be impossible. I think you just need to be a little bit more prepared, a little bit more organized, and just a little bit more relaxed about the situation. And it's just one of those things, like with anything else in life, if you want to do it badly enough, you'll find a way to make it work. And I just feel like we've traveled enough already that we kind of know how to deal with the situation, that we know how to travel ourselves. And I think adapting with a small child will, you know, it might be difficult to begin with, but I don't think it's impossible, and I don't think it's going to stop us from wanting to travel just because we have a baby. And, you know, even before we started thinking about having children, in terms of actually trying to have children, we were talking about, you know, in the future at some point it'd be nice to like travel, do certain trips with our kids and go to these sorts of places and or this, that, and whatever. And so it's never been something that we've been like, okay, we need to get all of our traveling done now before we have children, because once children come, then we can't do any traveling. I don't really see that as being a reason to stop the travel. I just feel like the way we travel might change. I generally think that's it, really. It's just about adapting to the situation and figuring out what works best for like your child and yourselves, and, you know, just making it work. I think being flexible is probably the most important part of it if you want to travel with kids. So I think I pretty much covered that question. If you have any other questions, please do let me know. I actually have a question for you guys this week. I haven't had a question for you guys for a while, and my question to you guys is, again, like I said, my little one's been born end of the winter, sort of mid to end of February is the due date, and so we're going to be heading towards the summer, heading towards the warmer months, and I have not got much experience with knitting with plant fibres, or basically non-wool fibres. I have knit with some Knit Picks Comfy Fingering, and that's perfectly fine and perfectly lovely, and I have some Comfy Sport, Knit Picks Comfy Sport in my stash, which I'm planning on doing some baby knits out of. But other than that, I don't really have much experience with other sort of nice cotton or cotton blend yarns. Specifically, I'm thinking something that's soft for next to baby skin, that'll be comfortable for a child to wear, sort of thing, because I'd like to knit some garments or some items out of like more cotton blend yarns, so that it's something that she could wear during the summer as well, potentially. So I'd be interested, what are your favourite sort of cotton or cotton blend yarns that you use for baby knits or baby garments, if you do, or just in general for garments for yourselves even, or accessories, etc. So yeah, that's my question to you guys this week, to do with cotton blend yarns. What are your preferences? I'd be curious, just because like I don't have much experience with that. I'm not entirely sure what would be the best ones to go for necessarily, and yeah, just would like to know what your thoughts on that. So moving on, finally, I'm going to try and keep this quick because I feel like this has been a long one today, but a bit of a week in review. So this last week, like I said, last time I recorded, I wasn't feeling well. I was at the very beginning of a head cold, which hit me quite hard. Later last week on Wednesday and Thursday hit me pretty hard as well. I was basically a mess on Thursday last week, and Friday again wasn't feeling particularly great in the morning, but by the evening I was starting to perk up a bit and starting to feel a bit better, which was great because Saturday was my birthday and I really didn't want to have to be in bed all day on my birthday. On Thursday afternoon we ended up taking the boys to the vets to get their rabies jabs updated, because like I said, we were planning on traveling soon, relocating somewhere else, we don't know where yet, but the boys need to get their rabies jab updated. And we found out some not so great news about Derek. Don't worry, he's fine, he's perfectly fine, he's just put on a bunch of weight. I don't know how, well I do know how. Last time I took Derek into the vets was in June. He'd had some sort of allergic reaction to something, and he developed like a small little rash or sore on his lip, and I took him in to get checked out, make sure it was nothing serious, and the vet said it was an allergy, an allergic reaction. So we changed the way we were feeding them. We switched their food from what we were feeding them, which was, we feed them Royal Canin dry food, mixed with, as well as wet food from Sheba. And so we actually reduced the amount of food we were giving them, and we switched from the dry food we were giving them to a hypoallergenic dry food to avoid the allergy situation. And we've reduced the amount of wet food we've given them as well by half. So I felt like, okay, they're doing all right, we've reduced the amount of food we're giving them, and they're still doing okay. 3 months later, Mr. Derek has put on 700 grams. It's ridiculous. He was 4.9 in June kilos, and now he's like 5.6 kilos. It's insane. That's a ridiculous amount of weight for a cat to put on in such a small amount of time. And even the vet was saying that's the equivalent of, like, as an adult putting on 10 kilos, or I guess that's like 20 pounds. Ridiculous. She said you don't need to put him on a diet or anything, you just need to try and get him to be a bit more active and run around a bit more, which we have actually noticed in the last few months. He's become increasingly lazy, which now makes much more sense. He's a little lump, and he's a little lazy kitten lump, and trying to get him to run around a bit more has been a bit challenging because he just doesn't want to. So we've been working on that. We need to get some new toys, I think, to sort of just freshen things up a bit for them and get them to run around a bit more. But Hugo, on the other hand, has not put on a single gram of weight since the last time I took him in. He's exactly the same as he was before. He's at like 5.2, which is fine. Around 5 to 5.3 is sort of like a healthy weight for them because of just their general brain structure and size. So yeah, just need to get Derek running around a little bit more. He's a bit of a tubby kitty right now. Anyway, so I wasn't particularly happy with that. I think partly it might be because of the food that we've changed them to. Maybe the hypoallergenic food is higher in calories or something than the other one, so we might be switching them back to the food they were on before. But anyway, I was not impressed. I had my first osteopath appointment last week as well on Thursday, and that actually went really well. I've been to an osteopath once before in London over the summer when my back was really bad, and I went again this time, and it was really good. I really liked the doctor, and he was very good. He sort of relieved a lot of the pain I had in my lower back as well. It worked. It was great for a couple of days, and then the pain started to come back again. But I'm seeing him again tomorrow, so hopefully I'll be able to get some more like relief from that, and maybe get a better idea of how to avoid it more in the future. Then for my birthday, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll have seen that we went to the Ritz for breakfast. It wasn't too bad. It was quite nice. It was the pancakes were a little bit dry. That's all I have to say. But it was tasty. They were very good, and the hot chocolate was amazing as well. And yeah, and then like I said, we went to a few different craft shops. We popped out to the mall in the evening and just had a really nice sort of lazy day at home in the afternoon together. It was just a really nice day. I think that's all there was to say, really. It was just a nice day, the two of us. We didn't really do anything overtly extravagant, but actually on the way home in the afternoon, we stopped by the supermarket near our house. Perry went to pop in to grab some stuff for lunch, and I stayed in the car, and he asked if I wanted anything. I was like, well, if they have it, can you get me some Monster Munch? Now, I haven't really spoken about this on the podcast before, but I did post about it on Instagram. And so towards the end of my trip to London, I kind of rediscovered my love of Monster Munch and became slightly obsessed with the roast beef and pickled onion flavours. Which is funny, because I absolutely hate pickled onions, but I love the pickled onion flavour Monster Munch. And then I just assumed I could get them over here, because you can get a lot of the same crisps here as you can in the UK. So I got here, and yeah, lo and behold, they did have the Monster Munch. And so like I bought a few packets every now and again when I went to the supermarket. And then when Perry was away in the US, I went to get some, and they were out of stock. Like, they had absolutely no Monster Munch at all, and I almost burst into tears in the middle of the supermarket aisle. And at that point I realized this was getting a little bit stupid, a little bit ridiculous. I was like, okay, get a grip. But they hadn't had it in stock since like the beginning of September, and so I was quite sad. Every time I popped in, I kept looking for them and never had them. And so when Perry went in, he came back, and he came back with like 3 of the big multi-pack bags of them, and I was just like, yay. I was so excited. I was so happy. He was just like, if I'd known this was all it was going to take, I wouldn't have bothered with all of the other stuff I got you. Oh, it was just funny. And to be honest, like we don't do much in the way of extravagant presents and stuff for each other in general, because to be honest, more often than not, if we want something, we sort of plan for it and we get it whenever we need it. We don't sort of just wait for birthdays and stuff. But so actually buying each other gifts for our birthdays and stuff is always really difficult, because we never know what to get each other. But yeah, he now knows Monster Munch are the way to go. But yeah, other than that, we have been doing antenatal classes this week. We started on Sunday. They've been every day in the afternoon for a couple of hours. It's been pretty good. I was surprised by how much I already knew instinctively, or just from other people's experiences and just general knowledge that you pick up throughout life. But it was also slightly terrifying, I have to admit. There were some bits of the classes with some of the information, you're just sat there, and at the end of it I'm just like, ugh. But I don't think it's too bad. It'll be fine. I know it'll be okay in the end, and at the end of it I'm not really going to care. As long as the baby's okay, it's going to be fine. We actually also went on a tour of the labour ward in the hospital, showing us where everything happens. And the thing is, I've mentioned this, we're not planning on being here when the baby's born. We're not planning on having the baby here. But, you know, we don't know what's going to happen yet. We don't know where we're going. We don't know what's going on. So preparing for worst case situation, which really isn't that terrible, but in our minds, like, the worst case scenario is that we just stay here until the baby's born and then figure out what we're doing. So we figured it's worth just knowing the situation, knowing what is available to us here, and stuff like that, and just in terms of being prepared. But so whilst we're not planning on being here, it's worth knowing what the services are. And to be honest, neither me nor Perry, I don't know about him, but I haven't been on a labour ward since I was a baby, I guess, or since I was really young. So I'd never really been on a labour ward since being an adult, so I don't really know where everything is and stuff like that. And it was just important to know, they told us, which door you come in at the hospital when you arrive, and which sort of like reception table you have to go to like let them know that you're there, and stuff like that, just useful practical things. So it was good. I'm really glad we've done it. Today's the last session, and yeah, it's been informative, and yeah, so that was good. But other than that, not much else has been going on. Perry is still like job hunting, I guess. He's sort of in talks with a few people about potential things. Nothing has panned out so far that sort of works for both of us, but we'll see. Fingers crossed something will come together soon, and we will hopefully have some good news. But for now, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for joining me. I think I've pretty much covered everything I was going to say. If I did forget anything, I'm sorry. Like I said, if you have any questions or anything at all, please do let me know. And yeah, so till next time, take care. Thanks for joining me. Bye.